everyone. Welcome to another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies!
Hey! We are back again for another week of geeky goodness here on the show, and excited to be talking about so many things that are going on here in the world of entertainment. Let's introduce ourselves first. My name is John Rocha, the Outlaw here, and I'm a writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies. Mike?
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
Mr. McClung.
And I'm Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor, where you may have seen me on The Goldbergs, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, we want to thank everybody who's been on the Geek Buddies train for quite some time. Thank you very much for being fans. For those of you who are new and maybe taking a chance on us, thanks again. This is how the show works. Each of us presents a Geek Buddy news item. So 3 of them will get presented here. We talk about it amongst ourselves for your entertainment. We take a quick break, and we talk about our main topic. And our main topic is going to be the DC Fandome announcement. What are we getting out of that? What do we think is going to happen? We're going to speculate about all of that. God, I can't talk right now. We're going to speculate about all of that and have a little fun breaking down what we might see, hoping to see, what we think see. What the fuck is going on? All right, I'm going to start that all over again.
I want you to do this. I want you to take a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out.
God, this is what the fans love. Make it real, Johnny.
This is a guided geek meditation.
This is what I get for doing a James Bond trailer reaction before I did this. I've already wasted my words. Anyway, yes. So our main topic today is going to be jumping into DC Fandome. We had a little fun speculating about what we might see, what we want to see, and what we think we will see during that event. All right. So should we jump into it? Are we ready?
Let's jump.
Okay, I'm going to start off first. I'm going to talk about Nia DaCosta here. What an incredible reaction people had for Candyman, the horror film that has been out now for a few days for people to enjoy. She was the first black filmmaker to open with a #1 horror film ever in the history of the box office, which is pretty incredible. Well, she was the first black female director, period, to debut at #1 at the U.S. box office. Pretty incredible stuff. Ava DuVernay had come close, opening at #2 with A Wrinkle in Time in 2018, but Candyman really put Nia DaCosta over the line here, and it did really well in the box office. A lot of people did not anticipate that it was going to do well in the box office, or we weren't sure with the pandemic and everything happening, with the fact that Black Widow kind of underperformed that second weekend, with the fact that Suicide Squad really didn't do so well. We had a great reaction from the fans for this, and I think it kind of connects here to A Quiet Place Part 2. Both of these horror films, and listen, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's pretty incredible that these 2 horror films were able to come out and do so well at the box office. Candyman, of course, we're going to keep tracking, see how it does, but for initial box office take, it did pretty damn well. What do you guys think about this?
Well, Mr. McClung, I saw on Twitter that you treated yourself to a solo scary movie earlier this week. So
unheard of.
Why don't you kick us off there, buddy?
Well, there are 3 horror films that I have seen by myself: A Quiet Place 1, A Quiet Place 2, and now Candyman. So nice. I had heard how good Candyman was, but as our audience might know, I'm a bit of a chicken when it comes to horror movies. I can get brave if I know it's going to be a really good movie. And look, I mean, Candyman, I've never seen the original Tony Todd one. I know roughly what it's about. This was a really good movie. I mean, there were story things that I was still a little confused about by the end, partly because I got scared. One part I really had to pee, because when I get nervous, I start drinking water very fast, very quickly. So I was like, I got to run to the bathroom. But Nia DaCosta directed the hell out of this movie. I mean, this is such a well put together film, and you look at what it cost. In terms of films, it was a relatively low $25 million. Mm-hmm. So if it can double its budget, if it can triple its budget, I mean, that's a huge undertaking. As far as why people are connecting to horror right now, I don't know. I mean, I think Candyman, it's only 90 minutes. It's a quick movie, and I think that was the same with A Quiet Place Part 2, that it was a shorter runtime. And man, I don't know. I mean, Black Widow, overall, it has underperformed when you look at what Marvel films have done. Right. It is still the #1 domestic box office film of the year right now. But yeah, it was that second weekend where it just kind of crashed. I mean, it had that huge drop off. The Suicide Squad, HBO Max is saying it did really well for them on the service, and it just didn't really perform that well in theaters. But I don't know. I mean, there's something just truly escapist about horror right now, and I don't know if it's because we've all kind of went through our own little bit of trauma for over like almost a year and a half now,
Right.
or what. But I mean, you know, this is also a word of mouth movie. I mean, generally horror is pretty front loaded. Like people go see it the first weekend and that's it. I mean, it typically tumbles in the second week, but this is a word of mouth movie. I mean, it's going to, I think this one's probably going to have legs.
Yeah. Mike, it almost made its entire budget back in one weekend, 22 million, almost made the entire budget back. And if Quiet Place Part 2 is something to monitor, or at least a blueprint, it could keep generating revenue for Nia DaCosta, for Jordan Peele, for the producers and the studio itself. This is a positive situation overall to see that a black filmmaker coming out, a black female filmmaker coming out with a horror like this, being that successful. It bodes well for all the noise you hear outside of this stuff. You're seeing a lot of success stories starting to happen now, post Black Lives Matter, post Me Too. There are things that are starting to happen with these studios, and they're seeing the results because the fans are starting to gravitate to this content more and more in large numbers. And that's a positive, I think.
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, it's not super, I mean, look, it's great. It's not super shocking. Horror is traditionally the most profitable genre.
Yeah.
It is lower budget, and a lot of people go see it. People like going to a dark movie theater with a bunch of other people and getting the shit scared out of them. It is one of the things that is just true about movies. And it's always been that way. So it's not surprising necessarily that the horror movies, the scarier movies, are continuing to do well, because they always do well. Now, that's not to say that what Nia DaCosta has done here isn't a huge achievement. I loved the movie and I thought it was great. So I think it's great. I'm not saying, oh yeah, it would have been good either way. Like, I think she delivered a great movie that is either kind of it's part reimagining of Candyman and part spiritual sequel to Candyman. And I think that she did a really, really good job. I think the movie's fantastic. But yeah, horror, always very, very profitable. I think also, you know, again, you can only see it in the theater.
Yeah.
I mean, with Suicide Squad and Black Widow, we're like, huh, I wonder what the difference was here. It's almost like you could watch those at home or something. So I think that's a big factor as well. Yeah. And I think the other piece of that is really great, and kind of you were talking about Black Lives Matter and Me Too and everything else, is that, you know, Jordan Peele with Monkey Paw Entertainment, like he's really set the bar for his movies, that these are not just horror movies. This isn't the Saw franchise. This isn't The Conjuring. This isn't, The Purge. These movies, you know, whether it be Get Out or Us or now Candyman, this is on one level a really kind of spooky, scary horror movie. And on the other level, this is a movie about the Black experience. And particularly the way that they took the story of the original Candyman, which was about someone who was lynched, who then, you know, got his revenge or got his murders in, but still was kind of a problematic movie when it came to race, and kind of took that story back and reinterpreted it and kind of really made it all about race in a lot of really interesting ways. I thought was really, really interesting. And I think that as much as that might set some people off and say, oh, why does everything have to be political? I think that horror as a genre does a really good job of allowing us to sort of sit in a theater and reflect on things that are going on in life in a way that we can sort of process in a different way. And I think Nia DaCosta's movie 1,000% does that. So I thought there's a lot of reasons that it's doing well, and I'm really happy it's doing well. And to Shannon's point, she really did direct the hell out of this. And I cannot, like, literally halfway through the movie, I was just like, fuck, I can't wait for the Captain Marvel sequel.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so excited. Like, I'm on board. Let's go. Let's go, Nia DaCosta.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. I agree with both of you. You know, I did my the non-spoiler review for it on the channel, and I had a really great. I watched this at home. I watched.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is a non-spoiler review of a movie like Candyman just you sitting there going, and then this thing that I can't tell you about was scary, and then this was scary, but I'm not going to tell you.
It was really challenging. I mean, you can usually what I do when it's a movie like this is I'll read some of the reviews from other people online, like The Atlantic or whatever. So I'll see what have they spoiled that's okay in their reviews, and so that'll give me a little bit of a guideline of what I can and can't talk about. in the, because I will have inadvertently spoiled a couple of things in the past.
Oh.
And I've been worried about, well, not just between us.
Called it.
Not just between us, but I have done that. And because to me, I don't sense that that's a spoiler, but some people don't look at trailers. So they're like, you spoiled this for me. So I have to be very careful about how I do that. But yes, Candyman was certainly a challenge. And I'll tell you, it was a 22-minute video that I cut down to 8 because I had to cut out some stuff that I went on and on about that I needed to make sure I didn't talk about.
Went from 22 to 8?
Yeah. Because
holy crap.
Trust me, that's not yesterday I cut a 45-minute down to 15. So it's just the way it goes sometimes with me because I'm long-winded and I'm a son of a bitch like that. But no, this is great. I mean, I loved the mood of the film. I love the cinematography in the film. Someone pointed out to me, I didn't notice until I rewatched it again, that it's shot from below up. And the original is shot from top down. And I was like, oh, wow. Right, because that's the white person's point of view versus a black person's point of view who's living or lived in the project. So that is a fascinating approach to the movie that I really enjoyed. And yes, you're absolutely right, Mike. The black experience is there for people to see and savor. And I think, was it Domingo? Coleman Domingo? I thought he was excellent. I made sure in my reaction or my review to point him out because I think Coleman Domingo, I would cast him in everything. I thought he was the standout of everybody in that film. Although Teona is great and Yaya was great, I thought Domingo really stood out. So this is great all around. And I hope it encourages more studios to give women of color, people of color, more opportunities to do these films and do these reimaginings and be successful with them.
I also think. I'm sorry. No. Go ahead, Shannon.
No, I was just going to talk about Coleman Domingo for a second. Like, if you haven't seen the theatrical Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, that movie, it's a tour de force of performances, and Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman get the lion's share of the credit. But Coleman Domingo plays one of the supporting guys, and he is fantastic. He, if you watch Fear the Walking Dead, he was also, on Fear the Walking Dead. Right. He's a really, really great actor. He's a theater guy that hopefully people are going to start seeing in more prominent roles, because I agree with you, John. He's a dynamite performer.
Right. Mike, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I think another thing that Nia DaCosta deserves a lot of credit for is with sort of the success of Get Out and Us, there's been sort of an onslaught of like black horror movies or horror movies that center black characters that deal with race, that deal with trauma. And there's been a lot of articles about kind of the experience of, are we sort of not glorifying black trauma, but like using black trauma as our entertainment in a very uncomfortable way. And I think that some of the films and TV shows that come out kind of do start to make you feel like, is this uncomfortable? And I think the way that Nia DaCosta handles the film, I think the way that she handles some of the flashbacks, I think the way that she handles doing some really stylized things with the violence and with the story allows her to tell a story that's a lot about black trauma, about the black experience without being a traumatic movie for a lot of people. I've been reading a lot of articles about kind of black horror and the black trauma experience, and I think that she deserves a lot of credit for being really, really smart and really, I don't want to say subtle, because subtle with a movie like Candyman feels kind of like silly to say. It's not necessarily a subtle movie, but I think that, but really, a gentle touch in the way that she deals with certain things that I think work for the betterment of the movie and make it a really, really strong film.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll see. We'll continue monitoring how it does over the next few weeks and see if it does kind of match A Quiet Place 2 in terms of its success versus its budget and what that leads to. And yes, we should all be getting ready for Ms. Marvels because it looks like it's going to be awesome. So, and Teona Paris reunion yet again of those two back together again. All right, where are we off to next?
All right, well, we are off to the past and over to Disney Plus. So another big bit of news this week is that Disney is reviving its cult classic, The Rocketeer, with a new Disney Plus movie titled The Return of the Rocketeer. And it's coming to us from David and Jessica Oyelowo, who are producing it under their Yoruba Saxon banner. And it's written by Ed Ricourt, who worked on Saving Damien. What is that movie? Netflix movie, Saving Damien.
Okay.
What is it called? Damn it. Raising Dion, not Saving Damien. Wow. Not even close to the same thing.
Samsonite, that was way off.
So I am going to. I'm going to write a movie called Saving Damien. Let's.
I think Samsonite might be better.
McGuarfield.
No, Ed Record. He produced and wrote that Netflix series Raising Dion. He also worked on Jessica Jones, Wayward Pines. He wrote Now You See Me. So he's working it. He's writing it. David Oyelowo, people are thinking he may star in it. So this is sort of a sequel to the classic Rocketeer, which was released in 1991 and directed by Joe Johnston, and adapted from the Dave Stevens graphic novel that was about a guy who gets a rocket pack and flies around. I know that this is one of Shannon McClung's fave movies. He's a big fan of it. This Return of the Rocketeer is going to have an all-new character kind of take on the Rocketeer banner, and it's focused on a retired Tuskegee airman who gets the Rocketeer mantle. So definitely a departure, new kind of story, new kind of Rocketeer, but sounds really, really interesting. Rocketeer is one of those really kind of fascinating movies in that it came out in a certain era. It wasn't the hugest Disney hit in the world. It wasn't something that knocked the doors off the box office, but boy, the people that love this movie really, really love this movie. It's on Disney Plus. You can check it out. You know, definitely in the world that we live in today, a superhero movie that came out in 1991, it's a little cheesy. It's a little silly, but there is something just inherently sweet and innocent about this movie. Shannon's making faces. He can defend the Rocketeer in a second. But yeah, no, I think that, you know, Disney Junior recently had a Rocketeer series that was run by Nicole Dubuque, which had a young female Rocketeer who kind of took on the Rocketeer banner that aired there. I think it's probably going to be available on Disney Plus probably sometime soon. So they definitely want to do stuff with Rocketeer, and this is kind of the next step. So what do you boys think of the original Rocketeer? What do you think of this reboot? Shannon, you may now defend your cheesy 1991 movie.
How dare you, sir? Well, the Rocketeer came out in summer 91, and that was a pretty big summer. Like, that was the summer of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. That was the summer of Terminator 2. That was the summer of Naked Gun 2.5. I mean, it was sort of, it was just, it was a big summer, and it was. I feel like the Rocketeer. It is very much a family movie, and I don't feel like it just didn't catch on with families the way that it then caught on when it was released on VHS. I mean, it's just it's a very pure film. The idea, and I know they wanted to do a continuation or something with the property, whether it be a reboot, whether it be a sequel, that they've wanted to do something with it for a while because it's just a cool property. I mean, just visually, the Rocketeer just looks cool. But you know, the story itself for the 1991 film, it is a small story. I mean, it takes place within just a few days. There's sort of the potential for it to have been a bigger story, but it's pretty insulated. The idea that the sequel will be a retired Tuskegee airman finding another rocket pack, because by the end of the movie, Alan Arkin's character has the blueprints to make another jetpack, because the one that they had. The one that they had in the movie does get destroyed.
Whoa! Didn't know this was a spoiler review.
Whoa.
30 years old. Come on. But the idea that that's the continuation, that it's this retired Tuskegee airman, and like any superhero movie, like any superhero origin, there's always, who is this? Who is this person underneath? And how long has Oyelowo been retired from the Tuskegee Airmen? We don't know. I mean, this could take place in the 60s. It could take place in the 50s. I mean, the Tuskegee Airmen, I think, sort of disbanded in like late 40s. Like it was post World War II. But I love the idea that possibly during the 60s, when civil rights tensions were high, that you have this superhero flying around and there's a black man underneath. I think that is such an interesting story to tell. And Oyelowo, before Selma, I was always a little hit and miss with him. But post Selma, I was like, okay, whatever performances came before this, I'm now like, okay, that was on the director, because this guy's brilliant. Yeah. And to see him embody this role, if he ends up embodying the role, I think it's something special.
Yeah, they haven't said he is going to. I mean, he's producing, but I think probably it's a pretty safe bet that he will be the retired Tuskegee Airman that is going to be wearing that helmet.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, he looks, I don't know if, because by the time this gets done, where will he be? What will he be working on? Also, he's in his mid-30s. He's not necessarily the youngest guy to be taking on this. Do you want to go with a younger guy? Is he? But it doesn't mean he can't be in the movie. Maybe he's playing the Alan Arkin character. That's certainly possible, where he's taking control of it, he's creating it, what have you, and then kind of, passing it on to a younger dude. I mean, it's always weird to me when he pops up when we watch some British stuff. He'll show up in older shows or older whatever, and it's great to see like the progression of David Oyelowo from where he was to where he is now, and it's great to see that he's getting these opportunities. Now, I've never seen the original Rocketeer. As you said, the summer of '91 was a very busy time for me, and I certainly watched Robin Hood 4 or 5 times. So I didn't have time to go watch this in the theater.
That's because you're an Anglophile.
Yes, true.
And you wanted to hate watch Kevin Costner's English accent.
What English accent? At no
Oh,
point,
man.
when he's doing it or when he's forgotten it, at no point is it an English accent. Let's just make that clear. At least Christian Slater's like, I'm not even trying one. I'm from Southern California. Let's put me up there. But no, so to me, it's one of those ones that's always missed to me. But I have a few friends who are absolutely devoted to the movie and love the movie. And I remember studying for the Schmodown in case it ever came up. I know about the gum or how they the pack and all of that. But I didn't even know Alan Arkin was in the movie, so I studied it. Should have studied a little bit harder. But I've always liked Billy Campbell, but Billy Campbell never quite blew up. So it's just kind of interesting that he's a part of this, as he was a part of this legacy as well. So will they find space for Billy Campbell, or I think Alan Arkin is still alive, right? So will they find ways to weave these guys in as cameos? We shall see. But that being said, this is exciting. The Tuskegee connection, very similar to Isaiah Bradley and Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
How are they going to work that in? How are they going to work that story in? And I'm so happy to see mainstream entertainment deal with these issues, bring these issues up, and not have to be afraid of them anymore. I love that. So I'm excited to see where they go with this, and if it turns out to be well, and who they cast. If they don't cast Oyelowo as the Rocket Man, who the Rocket Man will be. So,
Rocket Man is Elton John. This is the Rocketeer.
Rocketeer. I'm sorry, Rocketeer. Yeah, I apologize.
But now I'm very keen on seeing Elton John in the third Rocketeer sequel, where he sort of just wears his big glasses over the helmet and just flies around singing.
It's gonna be a long, long time. I thought he was the best part of the Kingsman sequel. So yes, please put him in this film. I'd be down with it.
Well,
I can't argue with that point.
I was like, it's hard to find the worst part of the Kingsman sequel, so I'll give you that.
All right, so we'll see what happens there. But looking forward to getting more updates on that Rocketeer remake or reimagining. We shall see. All right, Shannon, what have you got for us again?
Trailers. It's been a minute since we've had a pure trailers topic during one of our shows, but today we have 3 trailers, 3 very different movies. The first one, we've talked about it before on the show, but John and I have a special affection for Gerard Butler.
Yes.
I mean, we have discovered over the years that no one plays American blue collar better than a Scot. And he has a new movie coming out in September 17th, directed by Joe Carnahan, called CopShop. So this also stars Joe Carnahan, regular Frank Grillo, and also a character actor named Toby Huss. Toby Huss has been around for years. I mean, you've probably seen him. He played the Wiz in Seinfeld, the salesman that Elaine dated and became just infatuated with, and she couldn't remember why. And it turns out she saw him in all these old commercials. But CopShop, this is Gerard Butler basically plays an assassin who's after a con man and who gets himself locked up in a jail to basically take out this mark. And at the same time, Toby Huss plays a competing assassin who they basically get trapped in this police station and they're trying to kill Frank Grillo. This movie, this is 100% like, this is pure matinee Rocha McClung goodness. This we would have had 2 or 3 beers beforehand, would have been munching on popcorn for the first half, and then hopefully enjoying the hell out of the second half. But gentlemen, what did we think of the first look at CopShop?
Mike, you take this one, and I'll jump in afterwards, please.
Do I get to take it? Because this sounds like a 2-way conversation. I should see my way out of it. I don't know. Like
you be the stuffing in our Oreo sandwich. Go ahead.
Well, normally when it comes to the Gerard Butler movies, I would agree with Shannon that I don't need to see Gerard Butler in the 95th version of him protecting the president while some crazy thing is happening and he's running around the city in, like, I just don't need to see it. Not that interesting.
You watch your tongue.
But I will say that this trailer, I think looks fantastic. I think it's so weird, and it's such a fun character piece, and it's such like an original idea. I do think that with a lot of the Gerard Butler movies that come out, they seem, to me, like a less good version of a movie that we've already seen several times. Like, oh, we must protect the president at all costs. Oh, I am the president and must be protected at all costs. Oh, I have the secret plans for X and have to save them from Y. Like, they seem a bit formulaic. And you can definitely say about this trailer that it does not seem formulaic. I mean, this is such an interesting idea. The characters look so batshit crazy. It just looks weird. So this is one, if I'm invited, which it sounds like that's a big maybe according to this guy. Wow. But if I'm invited, I would happily go to this matinee. You guys can have your beers. I'll sip a couple martinis. It'll be great.
I'm down with this. Well, I mean, listen, one of the joys of having worked at Collider was getting some interaction with Joe Carnahan and meeting him in person. Joe Carnahan is an interesting cat, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you that right now. I was a fan when he first came out with Narc all those years ago with Jason. One of the rare great moments where Jason Patrick can really show his talent. And Ray Liotta was in that one as well. Narc was I think Busta was in that one as well. Narc was great. But then you had Smoke and Aces. I thought he did a great job with the A-Team. I was so surprised that film didn't get a sequel. Really enjoyed The Gray. The Gray is one of those Liam Neeson vehicles that actually has some depth to it, some weight to it. And Frank Grillo was a great part of that movie. I think that's where Frank Grillo went next level as an actor, being able to attract attention and end up being Crossbones in the MCU. And then he did Boss Level last year, which a lot of people enjoyed. It's a wacky, crazy movie. And so jumping into Cop Shop, I'm 1,000% behind it. I think he's doing the American remake of The Raid as well. So my God, that's going to look fantastic. This though, I think Michael nails it on the head. It has a little bit higher production value to it. The vibe looks better. It doesn't look like something you paid $3 for to watch on a streaming service on Pluto TV or something like that. This one feels like it's got, because you've got a great director like Joe Carnahan coming in and having some fun. And I know that they've got this production company with all these guys that are a part of it. Butler, I think, is a part of it as an actor. They want to put forth these films that go back to the old school kind of men, Stallone, 80s, Schwarzenegger type of movies. And so it's nice as a balance to get these kinds of movies that have a little fun with these stories. And there is shades of Assault on Precinct 13 in the trailer for sure. But Toby Huss is a brilliant choice. Loved him on what's the Catch Fire or whatever?
Halt and Catch Fire.
Halt and Catch Fire. I remember him back in the 90s when he used to do Frank Sinatra imitations for MTV. That's how far back I go with Toby Huss. And whenever he pops up in anything, he's a great addition. So to have him as an unusual type of guy trying to catch a hitman, trying to catch this guy is brilliant. Plus Frank Grillo with hair, I'm all about it. So I'm 1,000% down with it. I hope it's damn good. I want to have a great time. And if we can set up a screening for the three of us, I'm down. Maybe I'll drive up for this one, for God's sakes. Yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, also, like, to your point, as much as they're trying to go for this sort of like Stallone 80s kind of thing, we didn't talk a lot about, I believe her name is Alexis Louder.
Yes.
Who plays the cop. I think she might have been in Tomorrow War. But she looks really, really interesting in this trailer. So while you have the two kind of hitmen trying to hit Frank Grillo, the one cop is this black actress Alexis Louder, and she looks really great in the movie. And I thought it was really interesting to have that female presence in a movie that feels very testosterone heavy, which also is another reason that I was like, oh, this actually looks more interesting than. No offense to Shannon's matinee tastes, but a little bit more interesting to me.
What? Then what was the one? What was the submarine one that we enjoyed with him and Gary Oldman? I forget, Hunter Catcher, Killer Catch, something like that.
Hunter Killer.
Hunter Killer. Those are great titles, Mike Vogel. What's your problem? But yeah, shout out to Alexis Louder. I can't believe they're saying introducing Alexis Louder. Like, she's been in She was in the Watchmen series on multiple episodes. She's been acting for quite some time. Yeah, the Tomorrow More, one of the more recent ones, but she was in the original, so she's been doing stuff for quite some time. So kind of weird for them to say introducing Alexis Louder. So anyway, looks cool. All right, what's our next trailer? Oh, yeah, when does
that one comes out? September 17th, and you'll get to see Toby Huss say, "Bob, you and I are gonna fight to the death." He looks so funny. The next trailer,
yeah, go ahead, yeah,
is something that's coming out September 10th on Apple TV, and I'm gonna throw it to Vogel here in a second, but it is the film stage performance of the musical Come From Away. Yeah. So originally, this movie, they were supposed to shoot it. It was going to be a film. They were going to shoot it on location in Newfoundland, and then COVID happened. So they kind of took the Hamilton route and had a filmed performance, and that's what they're going to release on Apple TV. But for our audience, Mike, that doesn't know the plot of Come From Away, as you are the only one, I believe, of the three of us who have seen the stage musical.
That's not true.
Oh, have you seen it, Johnny?
Michael,
I took John Rocha on a date to go see it at the Amundsen.
And I had no idea.
It was a lovely evening.
Sorry. I guess you were busy at one of your matinees.
Or having sushi. Yeah, Michael took me and our friend Sarah and told me nothing about the musical. I walked in totally cold and saw it from scratch. But yeah, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of context of what this is about, which I did not give to Rocha, which was great. I'll tell you about that in 1 second. So Come From Away is actually a Canadian musical, and it's set in the week following September 11th. It's based on a true story, and it's about what happened when 38 planes were ordered to land outside of American airspace in a tiny little town called Gander, which is in Newfoundland. And it's really just about those days post September 11th and what this tiny town of Gander did when all of these huge, huge planes that were way bigger than should be landing in the Gander airport did, and how this town really came together in a time of like global crisis to help the people on these planes. I will say that when this musical came out, I do this a lot because I'm a big musical theater nerd. I bought the music to listen to before I had seen the show, and I had no idea what the show was about, so much like John. So I didn't actually know that this was about September 11th, so I was in my car driving to work and was listening to it, and I'm like, oh, this is nice, and then literally like burst into tears and had to pull over on the side of the road because I was like, oh shit, was not prepared for that. So of course, when I took John Rocha, I was like, don't read anything about it because I wanted to see the same thing happen. And boy, was I not disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, this thing, I was really impressed. And I can be kind of weird about stage musicals because I'll give movie musicals way more space, but with stage musicals, like, oh, I'm stuck in this theater. It's going to be 4 hours long shit. But this one was so well done, and it's not even the original cast that we saw. So we're gonna get I think we're gonna get the original cast.
I think we are, yeah.
I believe so.
In this Apple TV one. So the fact that the fact that I saw a touring cast and the music still was powerful, the stories were great, and it's a true story is really stellar. You know, a few months ago, I interviewed one of the producers of the play for a documentary that they were doing about. One of the producers of the documentary they were doing about the real story of this new and connecting it up with the Come From Away musical. So it was really great to re-experience it through that prism, to see the actual stories here, the actual people talk about their experiences. So I had no idea that they had filmed a version of this and that it was coming out. So I'm excited about it. If you guys don't have this musical, do yourselves a favor. If you love musical theater, just buy the soundtrack. That'll give you a great idea of what this is all about. Then when you watch it, you'll really enjoy it. There's 2 or 3 numbers that still affect me deeply when I listen to it, still get me emotional. It is fun. It is uproarious. It is also serious, and it's great, and it's very human, I think, at the end of the day. It's a very human musical with all the emotions you can run through on September 11th, and it's coming out the day before the 20th anniversary of September 11th, so it's a brilliant time to drop it for people to kind of get back into the feeling of this musical. Yeah.
It really is, for for a show that is about something that is inherently so upsetting and so sad to so many people. It does a good job of really hitting you in the feels, but you do come away feeling pretty amazing about humanity. So not only because it's happening around September 11th, but also because of the past 2 years that we've been living. I do encourage you. I know this is not necessarily our usual geek thing. And look, we've got plenty of multiverses and fandoms to deal with coming up. So we've got plenty of geek stuff. But if musicals aren't really your thing, you should check this out. The other thing that I think is kind of really cool about the fact that this is actually the stage show and not them filming something is that what's really fun, and I'll be interested to see how it translates to watching it on screen, but the entire cast does double duty. So every single member of the cast plays both citizens of Gander, the small town where the planes land, and some of the characters from the plane. So they're just flipping back and forth. Like you'll go from a scene where somebody will be playing someone who landed on the plane who's from New York or the Middle East or somewhere else, and then they turn right around and they're playing the town folk as well. And watching them on stage, sort of the way it's all staged and the way that they bounce back and forth from being a townie to a plane person was really, really fascinating. And the fact that you never once get confused, that they're playing very distinctive characters, it's really, really fun to watch from a theatrical experience. So in a way, I kind of feel like maybe this was good for Apple Plus. Like I think had they cast it fully with a bunch of actors and shot it on location, as someone who loves musicals, I would have loved to have seen that version. But I kind of think it's really cool that everyone gets to see this theatrical experience to watch it, because it's more so than a lot of other shows, just very, very, very theatrical. It's kind of like very barren staging. It's really a fun show to watch.
Interesting. Cool. So yeah, if your friends saw this show without you, you'll be able to see it yourself. On September 10th on Apple TV. And coming to our last trailer, the last trailer of the episode, and I think it's going to be the last trailer for this film, the final trailer for No Time to Die, the latest James Bond epic that was supposed to be released so long ago, it just hit. Basically, I mean, I think we're kind of getting to the Black Widow point with the marketing for this movie. Like, we've seen trailers for so long. I don't know how much more they can show us. I mean, we all know that this is supposed to be Daniel Craig's final outing as James Bond. We know that Rami Malek is playing the villain, and it comes out October 8th. I mean, not really being a Bond guy myself, I don't get it. Like, on paper, James Bond should be right up my alley. But I will say, of all the Bond movies, I have enjoyed the Daniel Craig ones the most. And obviously, I'm very curious to see this movie. Like, the scope, the action looks epic. I think Daniel Craig is always a fantastic actor. Watching Ana de Armas kick ass looks like a blast. But yeah, what did you guys think of the final trailer we think of James Bond No Time to Die?
Yeah, I don't think this one's getting pushed. And we're going to talk about some films that are going to get pushed in just a second that got broke as we were recording that came over there. But I think this one's sticking around. The press release I got said October 8th, but the trailer ends saying September 30th. So maybe in certain spots it'll be coming out, certain cities September 30th, and then October 8th it'll be coming out everywhere else. But either way, I kind of like this as a final trailer. We certainly got a little bit more footage. We didn't get a lot of Rami Malek, but certainly a little more of the mystery between Madeline and Rami Malek's character, which leads me to think, what does this all mean? I did a trailer reaction for this. It's up there on the channel now if you guys want to watch it. But yeah, I thought this was a good way to do it. Daniel Craig is looking every one of his years in this trailer like he is done playing this character. So I like that vibe and that feeling. Lashana Lynch looks incredible in the role that she is playing. It made me think, God, how much they held her back in Captain Marvel, because this woman can go, son. So seeing that, there's that plane sequence, my brain was like, just I'd never seen anything like that. So it was incredible. I like that Blofeld and Bond are working together. What's that going to be like? So all of it just excites me for this. And yeah, if it's coming out in one of the big cities here on September 30th, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I'll get a screening ahead of time, but I can't wait to finally see it. You're right, Shannon. We hit the Black Widow saturation mark with this, but it's finally coming. So let's get ready to see it. Let's get excited all over again. What'd you think, Mikey?
I thought it looked like a Bond movie. I think I probably lean more towards Shannon, but I will say this about it. Like, look, I've never not seen a Bond movie in the time that I have been going to theaters and Bond movies have come out, and I've seen a lot of the older Bond movies. Like, I think James Bond is cool, and I think the movies are normally decent to great. Like, I mean, there's like, I don't think that I've ever seen a Bond movie where I was like, that's horrible, horrible, horrible. Like, they're always a level of fun to them, unless it's Denise Richards playing a nuclear physicist.
That's what she was. Yeah.
Maybe that's a bit of a stretch.
I thought
Dr. Christmas Jones.
I thought Christmas only came once a year.
Hey-o.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
But I think that what I realized as I was watching the trailer, because I was like, I kind of had the Shannon reaction of like, I should be flipping out right now, and I'm kind of like, cool. And I realized that what it is we talk a lot about James Bond as a character being a relic because of the sexism, or because of the masculinity, or because of that. But I think one of the reasons, and I know that the Daniel Craig movies are sort of a bit more
they don't
serialized.
Yeah, they don't deal with that.
They sort of connect a little bit more. But I think that in general, like in an era where we are, as the three of us do, discussing the ins and outs of how Star Wars movies and cartoons connect and series, and how the Marvel Cinematic Universe is building itself every movie, and how, this, I think the James Bond movies, each one kind of just feels like its own adventure. And I think that this looks like a super, super fun one that sort of caps off the Daniel Craig series of Bond movies. But I don't get like thrilled, because I feel like, okay, and then we're gonna reboot James Bond and we're gonna tell more Bond movies. But the Bond movies sort of seem stuck in this wash, rinse, repeat cycle, where it's a good wash, rinse, repeat. They're all really, really exciting, but they don't make me as excited as some of the other franchises we talk about do. That being said, I am going to go back in the week leading up to this movie and rewatch each one of them one a night until we go see the movie, so that I'm going to maximize my Daniel Craig Bondness, and I'm going to come in ready to rock. So we'll see. Maybe that will change my feelings about it. We will find out.
Enjoy Quantum of Solace, guy.
I know.
Woof. But I do think the Daniel Craig Bond films kind of move away from the sexism for the most part. Away from they make his masculinity more fragile, and I appreciate that. He's always getting shot or almost killed or trying to retire. It's not about like, let me sleep with as many women as possible and look cool doing it. Like, he's really more of a rough and rugged Bond. And I hear you about the rinse and repeat, but I also think the Bonds reflect our society at the time. They keep changing to reflect our society at the time. You can't compare the Daniel Craig to the Sean Connery or the Roger Moore or even the Pierce. So I think in that way, I'm encouraged by that. And I hope the next Bond is even more of an expansion of this questioning of masculinity, and this more of a seeing equality with the femininity elements of the Bond franchise that can be there. So
and I should clarify. I think you're absolutely right that the Daniel Craig movies have been progressively working to sort of recenter Bond on a lot of the masculinity, toxic masculinity issues, whatever. And I think just based on what we've heard about this movie in general, it seems to be really kind of trying to even move that needle even further. So I think that's true. I think that just from a storytelling standpoint, as we talk about, where characters are going in other franchises, and knowing that like these are ever evolving stories where what happens in one movie or TV show has major effects on what happens in the next one. The Bond movies, even though, like I said, these are more connected than previous Bond movies have been, I think that there's still this sense of like every Bond movie, you're sort of like, okay, we're kind of starting and let's have a fun adventure, and it's not really going to affect where we go in the future. And so that just, to me personally, makes me a bit less, I wouldn't even say less excited, because like I said, I'm obviously going to go see this movie the night it comes out, but it makes me less invested in where the Bond movies go.
Yeah. They do carry storylines over. What you're saying overall is they don't carry the main storylines over.
Right.
That's where you have I understand that. Shannon, any final words?
Well, yeah, and to clarify, the international release date is September 30th. The U.S. release date is October 8th.
Mother effers. I'm going to fly to France. Anyway, all right, go ahead.
Well, that's it.
All right, well, there you go.
John, all right. What were you saying? What were you saying about movies that have been pushed?
Oh, yeah. Well, we've got some news here, right? Some movies that got rescheduled, and I should pull this up. Sorry, I got caught up in the Bond conversation. So we got a rescheduling of what did we get rescheduled? Sorry about that, guys.
I mean, they're all Paramount movies. So
Okay.
Jackass Forever, which was originally supposed to come out in October. I'm not positive when it got pushed to. The next one is Top Gun Maverick, which is massively disappointing to us. It has been pushed from November of this year to May of 2022, May 27th, I believe. And that has then pushed Mission Impossible 7, which was supposed to open on that date, to a date in November 2022. So, I mean, I don't want to say the upside, but they're all three Paramount films. So this was a Paramount Pictures. This was a studio decision. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the other films that are surrounding that kind of November release date that Top Gun was going to have, or the October release date that Jackass had, it doesn't necessarily mean that all those films are going to be pushed, but it's certainly a possibility. And when our friend Jonathan Gabay texted the news to us, my first reaction was, I'm just waiting for that Spider-Man No Way Home delay, and I'm petrified that that's what's going to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not sure why Jackass moved, but for whatever reason,
neither am I.
But I mean, Paramount making this decision and moving everything back it feels like there's probably some other things that we might not know about. I don't think that this is all COVID based. I mean, people are going to movie theaters. We just talked about Candyman having a great opening. Like, Free Guy has been doing pretty decently. Like, I think that there are people going to theaters. Theaters are open. All COVID issues aside, which are still definitely a thing that we're all living with, it does seem like the movie-going public is there. Yeah. So, and I don't see anything on the horizon, knock on wood. I mean, I could be wrong, but like, I don't see, unless, some huge change happens, that we're going to shift gears going backwards in where we are. So I think that if you look at Disney, you look at Marvel, you look at Star Wars, you look at Warner Brothers, you look at Universal, you look at all these other studios, like if we were to see all the studios all of a sudden like push everything back again, I'd be very concerned. One studio doing it, it's like, okay, well, there was a gap or something was bad, or Mission Impossible is definitely not going to be ready in time, and we knew we had to move it back, but we didn't want to give up that spot, and so why don't we fill Top Gun? Like, I think there's probably some extenuating circumstances that aren't necessarily pandemic related.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to look at it, because it looks like the way they're moving it from Thanksgiving weekend to Memorial Day weekend, maybe they feel that's a better time, because that's very much focused on the military. So why not release it then? It's kind of smart, and you'll be in starting the I think you're starting the summer season a little bit with that, so, or in the middle of the summer season. So that's a good move for them overall to make some money. So that's a positive for Top Gun. I totally get the move. I hate it. I'm mad, especially at a CinemaCon. Apparently they showed 13 minutes or the opening third, and people were going nuts about the film. So the fact that it got pushed is a worrisome for me, but I get it. But Ghostbusters Afterlife now moves into that slot and moves out of going toe-to-toe with Eternals. So I think that's part of it, Mike, which you mentioned, some of this maneuvering here. Now Eternals pretty much owns November 5th. Nothing's going against it. Ghostbusters gets to move over to November 19th, I think, and not having much competition other than Will Smith's King Richard, which is kind of an independent film, probably not going to make that much money, and Resident Evil as well, which is coming out there, Rebirth or whatever, Welcome to Raccoon City. That's going to be, so I think they're poised because of the buzz at a CinemaCon from those screenings of Ghostbusters Afterlife. They think they can really own a weekend or a couple of weekends and make some money, especially over a family weekend like Thanksgiving. So hopefully that's a smart move. And I know I read this morning in the New York Times that apparently there's articles now saying maybe the variant has crescendoed and is maybe starting to come down. We shall see. So maybe we don't anticipate a lot of movie theater, or a lot of studios rather, moving all their stuff in mass. And this is just Paramount making some moves for them to put their films in the best position possible to make money. We shall see. All right, so let's take a quick break, and we'll jump into our main topic here, DC Fandome, and what we expect to see and what we hope we see there from there. We'll be right back. I feel like that was a little late. I don't know.
Yeah, I started too high.
Cool. Yeah.
Also, the one, we have a lot of movies coming out and none of them with him in it, so maybe
Whoa!
a better choice, but cool.
Wow.
When you see the DC logo, you know they're going to use the Superman music.
And they used Superman and Lois in the So anyway, all right, let's get into it. DC Fandome was announced. It will be streaming online on October 16th. So this is free to everybody. Be on the YouTube channel, be on Twitch. It'll be on a number of places you can watch it for sure. There's also a DC Kids Fandome that is also going to be coming out in the same weekend. So you can plop your kids in front of one screen, plop yourself in front of another screen, and never leave the room and enjoy an incredible amount of content. There's supposedly going to be a first official trailer. There's going to be another trailer, a rumor trailer for Batman. They'll tease 6 of their DC films, including Dwayne Johnson's The Black Adam film, The Flash film, which we've already seen pictures of Michael Keaton on set for, DC League of Super Pets. We'll get a behind-the-scenes look at Aquaman, Lost Kingdom, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Then WBTV will talk about Batwoman, The Flash, Superman and Lois, and Sweet Tooth, which got officially greenlighted for a second season. They'll also pay tribute to Supergirl, which is wrapping up its 6-season run. DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which will reach 100 episodes. I can't believe that. It's pretty incredible. Then they're going to talk about Naomi and get some more Stargirl stuff as well. They'll unveil a look at Peacemaker, which is that film that's spinning off of a show spinning off of Suicide Squad. They'll also preview limited series of DMZ as well as Titans and Doom Patrol. And apparently if you register, they're going to release 300 comics or graphic novels for free for you to be able to read leading up to DC Fandome. So what do you guys think about all of this? There's animation, the DC comic books, all the stuff's going to be highlighted here. You're not going to be able to see everything, obviously, at the same time, but it's going to be a lot to consume. What do you gentlemen think about this situation?
When DC Fandome was on last year, we were still very much in sort of a lockdown situation, and watching DC Fandome during that one day, because they did end up splitting it. Like they had the films and video games on one day, and they had a lot of the CW stuff on another day. That was one of my highlights of quarantine, was because we were so starved for anything new. And we still had a very optimistic point of view about when stuff was going to come out. But that was such a blast. I mean, it has been a long time since I sat down in front of my computer. I literally ate crappy food all day. It was sort of like the mini Comic Con my own mini personal Comic Con. And afterwards, we did a huge, like a very long, 2 hours, 3 hours episode, chatting about everything DC, the three of us and Mr. Mike Kalinowski. And afterwards, I went over to Kalinowski's and we had beers out on his porch. I mean, so that was such a great day. Now that everything is opened up a little bit more, like I'll be curious to see if it will have the holding power that it did when you had literally nowhere else to go. I'm certainly curious for that second trailer of the Batman. I know there were some TikTok reaction videos that came out that they had a screening and everyone kind of flipped out about it and talked about how great it was. I'm very curious for the first look at the Aquaman sequel. Like, even though I am a huge Aquaman fan, I was not the biggest fan of that first movie. I was happy that we got a movie. But watching like Candyman and watching how good Yahya Abdul-Mateen is, or watching Watchmen, watching him in that, and be like, oh man, he was really criminally underserved in that first Aquaman movie. And I hope that that steps are taken to show him off a little bit more in the role of Black Manta. And I'm really curious about the first look at The Flash. I mean, that is the movie that at least us as fans seem to think that this is going to be sort of the DC Universe film reset. But we'll find out. I mean, that's what we're sort of extrapolating from all of the announcements that have come out. But mostly, I'm excited to do it again, and hopefully to do a live episode like we did last year.
Oh yeah. What do you think, Mike, about all this DC Fandome announcements and stuff coming?
Yeah, I think Shannon's not the only one that's curious to see how DC Fandome does in its second year. I think Warner Brothers and DC are probably really interested as well. I mean, we talked about this a lot when Comic-Con was canceled. We talked about it when DC Fandome came out. We also talked about it when that Disney Investor Day happened and they just announced every fucking thing in the world. That the excitement that was generated during a pandemic during DC Fandome, because I did the same thing Shannon did. I probably didn't eat as unhealthy as he did, but I did sit in front of my computer. You said it. You said it, buddy. I have this picture of you with like a whiskey and Taco Bell on your chest. Like,
what's your point? What's your point?
Shannon's like, that was correct. No, I think that to Shannon's point, it was really great to have that moment during a pandemic where we all kind of felt like we were all excited about the same thing at the same time. And it was the closest that we could get to that feeling that we've all had at Comic-Con when you're like sitting in Hall H and someone sees something. So I guess what everybody's going to try and see now is, as we are more open than we were then, as we are kind of largely out of the pandemic compared to where we were a year ago, will that same level of excitement happen? Will everybody still be sitting by their computer, kind of waiting to see these announcements and tweeting about it and texting each other? I think people probably will. I mean, if you look at like the reaction to the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer last week, like we all do get very excited when we can go watch something on our computers, and we all post about it almost immediately. So the fact that DC is going to have this day where they're going to do all this stuff, I imagine we will all do it. But I think if it is as successful or even close to as successful, it's going to be a big sign of the way that the studios are going to do things moving forward. And it may be a sign of things shifting in the way that we experience the live events like a Comic-Con. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I think there's a lot of industry curiosity as to how fans are going to react to this. Personally, I kind of to Shannon's point, I mean, obviously I'm excited about a new look at the Batman because we've all been so excited about it for so long. And really excited about the Flash just because I do think that this is DC's opportunity to skip a few spaces on the game board and get a little bit closer to Marvel if they do it right. So I'm really, really curious to see how they handle all that. I'm really excited about the Superman and Lois stuff because I think that show is just fantastic. I think it's a big step up from where the CW shows have been. And I think that it's where I would like to see the CW DC shows keep going as far as that level of production value and kind of quality of show. And then on the animation front, I'm really excited about everyone's first look at Young Justice Phantoms, the 4th season of Young Justice, because it's going to be pretty awesome.
Are you writing on that? Can you say?
I will tell you at another time.
Wow!
No,
wow!
I don't know that I can say, but I can say that if I did know anything about Young Justice Phantoms, I would say that it will probably be really good.
That's an NDA I saw floating by. Yeah. All right. I understand. I understand. Yeah, you'll have 3 Wonder Woman comic books as well. The DC Black Label miniseries Wonder Woman Astoria, Nubia and the Amazons, and Wonderful Women of the World will be part of this thing. You get the Batman Fortnite comic crossover. They're going to tease that. Batman Fear State, which is the new 6-issue Black Manta series. And the return. Oh, sorry. They're going to get that and the return of the Milestone universe. That's also going to be a part of it. Also, season 3 of Harley Quinn. What are we going to get from that?
Yep.
That's going to be I'm going to be very curious to see it. Also, they'll be showing off 2 films, Injustice and Catwoman Hunted. Wow. And then on the gaming front, Gotham Knights, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which I think that is in Black Widow territory. I've been waiting. We've seen so much. I mean, they had a trailer for that last year.
Yeah, I was going to say that the trailers for the games look suspiciously like the trailers for the games at the last DC Fandome.
It's curious, but if we move past the fact that this is all happening, and I'm certainly going to be parked in front of my computer because last year I think I was out of town, and then we came back and did the live show. I'm very curious to see how they're going to release things, how they're going to put things out. And of course, trailer reactions put up. So we'll see. It'll be a challenging weekend for sure. But I think also, is this a bit of a test case for them? Michael, you mentioned this earlier, how DC and WB are going to see how this does. Is this now even more furthering the theory or the feeling that the idea of Comic-Con is coming to an end? You know, we've seen so many of these little Comic-Cons start to become bigger Comic-Cons. New York Comic-Con has eclipsed San Diego Comic-Con in terms of attendance. So do we see that maybe more studios are going to possibly go this route, get this kind of social media interaction, get this kind of buzz on social media to generate for the content? is this now the blueprint going forward? We've seen the Investors Day, we've seen these other things. Is this now where they're going to go? And less, is Comic-Con going to start to become what it was at the beginning, which is a source for comic books, a source for these kind of smaller things for people to go now relax and enjoy conversations with these creators?
Maybe I'm being optimistic,
Okay.
as I am prone to be, but I don't think it's ever going to fully replace it, the same way that I don't think watching movies at home on streaming is going to fully replace the movie theater experience. I think that human beings have a desire to congregate in person. And I think that, sure, going to Comic-Con and seeing your favorite celebrities on a panel is a huge part of Comic-Con for a lot of people. But I think a bigger part of Comic-Con is kind of coming together with a bunch of like-minded nerds where you're hanging out in hotel bars for 4 nights talking about who would win in a fight, Superman or Batman. I mean, I think that there's certain things that happen when you're at Comic-Con that you can't emulate at home.
Great point.
And just the same way, to Shannon's point about going to see Candyman, like, there's a difference seeing a scary movie in a dark movie theater and watching a scary movie on your couch, even if all the lights are turned off. So I think that although these things are going to shift details of how Comic-Con works, I think, DC, Disney, everybody know that if they just do a giant online thing one day and announce it, which is way less expensive for them to do, they're going to get as much of an impact as they get driving down to San Diego. So we will probably lose some things. Maybe we won't get the number of celebrities. Maybe there won't be as many panels.
Yeah.
But I think that will be replaced with the fact that Disney and Warner Brothers and Universal and everybody will realize that there's other things that they can do for that giant group of people that are going to either New York or San Diego as the 2 prime locations, that are still going to be just as impactful, get people just as excited. And so I think that it might shift the way those things are run and produced and what some of the panels we may get will be.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's ever going to fully, I don't think that Comic-Con is ever going to go back to what it originally was. And I don't think it's just going to go away. I don't think we're all just going to end up sitting in our homes on our computers for everything. I think there's still a live component to that people are still going to crave.
Okay. Shannon? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Vogel. Even if, like, next Comic-Con, they pulled all the movies, if they pulled all the TV, I think you're still going to have artists. You're still going to have creators that want to go and meet with the fans and congregate with the fans. And, I think the universal language of comics now is so widespread around pop culture that it would be nice to see the cast of these movies. It would be nice to see the writers of these television shows. But if we can't, at the end of the day, the thing that is the most has the most lasting effect from Comic-Con is being around like-minded individuals, like being at those hotel bars, watching how downtown San Diego, if we lose a couple blocks of the Gaslamp district, that's okay. If there are less places to go, you're still going to be hopefully with the same people. And that's the biggest takeaway that I always take from Comic-Con. Like, I love going to the panels. I love seeing those announcements.
Ditto.
I mean, Johnny and I, we did Hall H together for years.
Yep.
But if we didn't have anywhere to go afterwards to talk about it with other folks, to share in those experiences, it probably wouldn't mean as much.
Also, walking the floor, right? You can't replace that experience. Walking the floor, discovering new artists, just buying those T-shirts, talking to like-minded people about this stuff, going to those independent sellers of comic books, which I love to do on the last day of Comic-Con on Sundays, and just stack my bags with great comics at really cheap prices from great artists, great creators. And you miss that whole experience of, like, finding like-minded people who are into the stuff that you're into. So yeah, that's an interesting point. Mike?
I also think it opens the possibility of the panels being kind of a little bit different, but potentially more interesting. If if you took away from the panels the idea that you're going to drop the newest trailer. And by the way, they probably still will. Like, you'll drop a trailer at DC Fandome, and then you'll have an exclusive look at Comic-Con, and you can still, there's plenty of footage to show and people to get excited, but, does that mean that what they'll do instead of dropping trailers and doing all that stuff because they do that for their online events, that Comic-Con is like, Marvel has, Nia DaCosta, Taika Waititi, Chloe Zhao, and a handful of other directors come and do, like, a whole panel on directing Marvel movies with Kevin Feige moderate. There's ways that you can still interact with your audience who's paying a lot of money to go to Comic-Con and give them something that only they get at that location. And maybe that'll lead to Comic-Con doing some more stuff like that, which I think would be super, super cool.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, any final words on this? What we want to see from the Batman trailer? I mean, as Shannon mentioned, we should give our thoughts real quick. It supposedly there was a screening of it, 3 hours long, very much leaning into the horror element. A lot of people coming out with praise for Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. By the way, it's really hard to mess up Catwoman. I think Halle Berry is the only one that really kind of gets any kind of, kind of guff. But you could argue the whole film was crap. It wasn't her, So, but everyone else seems to get love. Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer's, go all the way back to Lee Merriweather, Eartha Kitt, and Julie Newmar. They all get love for playing the character. So nice to see Zoe Kravitz getting some love. Paul Dano apparently is insane. Apparently there's a crazy twist at the end of the film, and Pattinson's getting a lot of love as well. So what do you guys think about hearing that noise or hearing that news, and what kind of trailer we might be getting at DC Fandome in a little bit over a month?
Well, I mean, after seeing that first trailer that premiered at last Fandome, where they had only been shooting for a very short amount of time, and the footage that we got was incredibly impressive. I mean, it looked like they'd been shooting quite a bit longer. Knowing now that they are done, that they will have had time to do some of those post-production effects and whatnot, I'm super excited. I mean, we got one really kind of okay look at Paul Dano, but that's the thing that a lot of people have talked about is like, this dude he's insane. I mean, and for most folks, their exposure to the Riddler is Jim Carrey. And that's not to take anything away from his performance. I mean, it was what it was for that movie, but there is another side to this character that sounds like Paul Dano really explored successfully based off of these reaction videos. I mean, the Batmobile was something that was singled out in a lot of those videos. And, again, most the movie-going public, they think of the Tumbler. They think the Nolan movies. I mean, folks of our age, we think of the Burton movies. This is completely different. This is literally taking a muscle car and throwing a jet engine on the back. So, I mean, getting a better look at all of these, and because it had such a tumultuous production shoot because of COVID, I'm just excited that it's done, that we're going to see it. I mean, we had read a whole bunch of rumors, which could be bullshit, that Matt Reeves and Pattinson didn't get along, and that Pattinson during the lockdown gained a little bit of weight and wasn't exactly in Bruce Wayne shape. I hope that this trailer will put those rumors to rest.
Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I was just talking to somebody the other day where they were like, why are you excited about another Batman movie? And, there's something in our collective consciousness. Batman works for us as far as like our modern day mythology. Something about the Batman mythology is it's evergreen to us. We always want to see these stories told. We want to see them told in a slightly different way, but we still want it to reinforce a lot of the ideas that go behind Batman. And I trust Matt Reeves and everything we've heard and everything we've talked about with this movie. It's a little bit of the Nolan version of let's tell a grounded Batman story, but it's a little bit of let's really lean into the detective side of things, because that's something we haven't explored about Batman as much in the movies. Yeah. And then it looks really dark as fuck and super creepy, which, I think is also good. Like the Burton movies, which I love, are in our modern day superhero lens a little cheesy. The Schumacher movies are the Schumacher movies, and Nolan was telling a very specific kind of story, and it looks like Reeves is doing something that's in a very different venue. So even though it's yet another Batman movie, it seems like we're going to get some new shades to it that I'm really excited about.
Yep, it's like Bond. It changes for the taste of the public. Now we're more open to getting darker stuff. We've seen some of the darkerness of human beings, the darkness rather of human beings. We've seen over the last 4 to 6 years how crazy people can actually get. So we need a grittier, darker, more violent, possibly horror-filled Batman that gets us back into this world. And if you're going to do it differently, or if you're going to do it again, you got to do it differently in a way that kind of connects with a large majority of the movie-going public. And it sounds like it will be one of those films. So, all right. Well, that's this episode of the Geek Buddies. Thank you all so much for joining us here for this episode. Shannon, what do we got to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
If you want to see a crappy matinee, you can hang out with Shannon. If you want to see a big budget movie musical, you can hang out with me. But no matter what you like, you can hang out with all three of us. And we love doing what we're doing. And here is how you can help us out. Hit the like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. Leave us some comments below. What did you think of this? What trailers are you excited about? What do you want to see at DC Fandome? Are you a fan of The Rocketeer? Let us know what you think about the things that happened in this episode. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about in future episodes. If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere where podcasts are available, go ahead and leave us some stars, leave us some comments. It helps us go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, let everybody know that this is a fun place to hang with some geeky guys and talk about some geeky business.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what Michael said. I mean, we've got so much dropping Geek Buddies content here on the channel. Please subscribe to that content. Subscribe, hit that button, and hit the bell button as well. The bell button lets you know when new content is dropping from the Outlaw Nation channel or the Geek Buddies, and we're doing more reviews. We got some interviews lined up. We're doing more of the coverage here that you guys enjoy from the Geek Buddies. So if you're watching us but you're not subscribing to the channel, we need you to subscribe to the channel as well so we can get this thing over 20,000 subscribers. Once it becomes 20,000 subscribers, it's more cachet to get some of the creators that you love and enjoy to come and be guests with us and be interviewed by us, and we want to make that happen. So help us do that. All right, that's it from all of us. Y'all take care of yourselves, be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here from the
Geek
Buddies!